one, you bastard!
Brought to you by supporters who probably have better taste than this schmuck.
Maketoys is one of the most venerable third-party companies. Honestly, I don't think you'll find a more popular company within the community. Well, within the third-party community. You ask Hasbro fanatics and they'll probably claim it's not real Transformers. I know people like that, they exist. But when it comes to Maketoys' masterpiece offerings, they're able to capture the hearts of a lot of people. Their releases are accurate enough to catch the 3PMP crowd, but they're stylized enough to capture the regular crowd. The kind of people who want their figures just a little bit more filled with life. But when it comes to this marathon specifically, I haven't had the best relationship with them. I love their figures, don't get me wrong, but so far their dips into the Legends class haven't turned out so well. That being said, there's one release that everybody touts as the pinnacle of their Legends. What's the word I'm looking for? Soiree? Doesn't really work. Journey? Kind of too simple. You know what I mean. Honestly, when I first saw this release, I thought it was something MMC did. I don't know why I thought that, but I just did. But no, it is indeed a Maketoys release, and let me tell ya, this is one of the greats. People looking for this set on the aftermarket might have a few twisted priorities about what this set is primarily for. I mean, you do get two parts to it, and many people think that the upgrade kit is the main portion. And that was what I thought when I first got this set, but that is not the case. If you are buying this set, you are buying it primarily for Tailgate over here, and wowzers, he is amazing. This is an absolutely gorgeous vehicle mode that uses great engineering to get a really interesting mass layout where all the parts interlock and everything. It's solid, the detail is phenomenal. Just, it is probably one of the best IDW Legends figures I have ever handled. And yeah, I know that's a bit of a spoiler for my opinion on this set, but Jesus, this is sweet. The front of it is awesome, and yes, it is a faux part, and that may anger some people, but I just think it looks rad. You've got nice color separation, not paint, but color separation for the headlights. A lot of paint on the front here, and it doesn't just look like a windshield that wouldn't need to exist on Cybertron. Testament to the IDW designers, and a testament to Maketoys for bringing this to life. The top is super clean, like there's a lot of panels that fold out of there, but you don't really notice it. Especially the size too, it really works well. Lovely blue lining and blue highlights there, and awesome orange highlights there. Extra blue here, silver paint on the hubcaps. Rolls extremely well thanks to pinned wheels and orange paint there, and even a little tampograph that says bomb disposal. Would have been cool to have that in Cybertronian lettering, but it's still an amazing thing to have. I don't really have any gripes for this figure. It's just an amazing piece. The only thing I could possibly think of is that this part is a little bit gappy, thanks to the way this arm panel slides in and out. I'm not really a fan of that, but that's about it. The back, yes, it's a bit hollow, but bring up the sign again. The top is incredibly clean, the underside is incredibly clean for what it is. Doesn't look like there's a robot hiding under here, even though it's pretty much just arms and legs all doodad, there we go. Just, there's not much to complain about here. It is an absolutely fantastic Legends figure. Also built really, really well. This is an old-ass Legends figure, and at the time, the plastic quality on a lot of Legends figures wasn't that great, whereas this feels really solid. I feel like you could release this today and it would still hold up really well. In fact, I think this got a reissue recently, and I'd really jump on that if you can. Of course, this set comes with two elements to it, so let's take a look at the other part. This right here is an upgraded form of the Battle in Space Cyclonus 2-pack release. The set only comes with the extra parts, it does not come with the original figure. It is highly recommended to use the Battle in Space version, but you can really use whatever version of Cyclonus you wish. The only problem is the colors won't match up that well. They are really designed to match up properly here. You'll notice that the arms match up very closely with the hip skirt armor there, but of course if you don't mind the color mismatch, you can always use whatever version you feel like. Now initially I was worried that I would have to compare this to the Shattered Glass version of Cyclonus, because this was the only version of regular Cyclonus I have. Since I had the Kingdom version, I decided just to upgrade this so that they'd have a bit of difference between them. But recently this year, thanks to the brilliance that is the Facebook Marketplace, I have the Henkei version to compare it to. So you can see a lot of the differences on show here, and something interesting to say, I reckon the upgrade kit makes this alt mode more cohesive. Not a lot of the details are seen in this mode, mainly just the hip skirts becoming extra thrusters at the back here. However, on the original, this was a really scrappy section, thanks to the transformation happening there. And don't get me wrong, the transformation on this thing is amazing. Not as good as the Kingdom version, but it still holds up incredibly well to this day. But it is still scrappy, whereas you look at this and it really fills it in. Maybe not from the back so much, but definitely from the top. Like, that looks much more cohesive. I guess leave it up to Maketoys to make toys better, I guess. Seriously, Maketoys is a brilliant company, and I really miss them. I hope they're doing all right. But send me my goddamn Acid Storm. I'm still waiting for it. There's not really much to say in this mode because you can't see a lot of the upgrades, aside from the cohesion that's added thanks to the hip skirts, and I guess the color matching also works really well. I don't know, it's a really well integrated upgrade kit. The only thing that doesn't integrate as well is the new IDW styled head, but it's such a minor thing. And if you don't want to use the head, you don't have to. You can keep the G1 styled head, although it doesn't really fit that well with the new parts. Anywho, the upgrade parts don't actually change the sizing that much. He's still roughly 15 centimeters wide and 16 centimeters long. And as for tailgate, he is 8 centimeters by 5 centimeters by 3 centimeters, although it's a bit hard to see with my hand in the way there. And for a size comparison, here they are next to a standard Legion figure, a standard Core Class figure, a standard War for Cybertron Micromaster, and Crumbs. Now, the transformation on tailgate is really good. Seriously, this thing outclasses almost anything from the time period that it came out in. If memory serves me correct, it came out around the same time as Iron Factory Turrets and Manacle, yet it demolishes any of the early Iron Factory releases. Probably because Maketoys was a venerable company that had done many great releases in the past. First thing you really want to do is untab the arms from the sides here. You can then untab the shoulders from there as well, and they'll move out to the sides on their extra little hinges. Bring up the backpack section just a little bit, which will allow you to untab the legs. The legs actually do quite a bit of converting. They're tabbed in the double hinges there. Back there, you see the slot there, and they've got the tabs there. They may seem symmetrical, but they tab into there and to there, which is a great way of locking everything together. You bring out the legs all the way, untab the feet from there, and rotate them around to the front like so. Come around to the front of the robot mode and bring the wheels around and into place. I love when things line up perfectly in the vehicle mode and then swivel around and they still line up perfectly in the robot mode. It's an awesome little design choice there. The arms come all the way down so we can start moving things into place. These kind of panels slide up and into place. Yes, they're sliding rails. That's the only part of the transformation I dislike. Before you bring down the chest, you want to bring this part out. That's pushed in so that there's a bit of better clearance in vehicle mode. When that's done, you bring down the chest, and as you do that, it should push the head into place, although you might need to finagle it a little bit as well. You've got double hinges in here that kind of rotate into place like that. 2 hinges, and they form the sides of the chest. Sort of like Cyclonus in a way. Come around to the backpack and use the double hinge to get that into place, and you also bring the backpack up a little bit so it's out of the way of the waist swivel, and we are done. Wonderful little tailgate designed awesomely. As for Cyclonus, it's basically just the same thing as the Deluxe with a few extra steps added for those hip skirts and all that jazz. Although before I transform it, I should mention that the sword just slots in there on the vehicle mode if you want vehicle mode weapon storage. Doesn't look that great, I prefer just leaving it off, but hey, it's an option. But for the transformation proper, you remove the arms like so. Bring this section up a bit so you got some more clearance for the legs. Extend the 2 halves of the legs that kind of fold around to form the thighs like that. Not the thighs, no, the calves, I should say. The calves and the shins, they extend like so into place, and like so into place, and you bring the feet out like that. Just kind of leave these hip skirts out to the side for now. We're gonna deal with them later. You push the nose cone section in, then you open it up, folds in and folds in. I feel this is actually a more satisfying transformation than the Kingdom version. Just in this part, but everything else the Kingdom version does better. The head swivels around, and then you use these sort of swivels to bring the torso parts into place like so. Come around with the arms like that. Come around to the back and bring the wings in like that, just on their double hinges. When you do that, you may want to just bring that out to the side and sort of get it out there, and then it all works. Use the double swivels here to get the arms out like so. And the rub symbol's acting up because it is really hot today, lol. Bring the fists out like so and rotate them around into place. Now that that's done, you can actually bring the arms out of the way so we've got enough clearance for the hip skirts. You bring this panel up and you rotate these around to the sides. Make sure these are fully rotated around and like that, open like so that they can kind of cup over the thighs. Then you use the hinge to bring it into place, and they just kind of fit there, and we are pretty much good to go with Cyclonus. Forgive that shoulder there. That was always a quirk on my copy. It was always annoying. None of my other Cycloni do that. And here they are, all set up as a team, and wowzers, they look great together. Although, if I'm being honest, once again, the tailgate is the absolute absolute star of the show. He just does everything so amazingly. The design, the articulation, the build quality, everything is ruddy perfect. The amount of highlights on this thing is just amazing. It's very similar to the Perfect Effect Rosanna I took a look at last year, with all sorts of orange highlights all over the whole thing and even some blue ones here and there. It's really sturdy as well, with nice and solid ball jointed feet that actually are toleranced quite well, so you can just go boom, there we go. And it's weighted pretty well too, so the backpack doesn't really cause any issues with standing. Doesn't have the best heels in the world, but I don't feel the design really needs it. The head sculpt is absolutely on point. It is just so characterful, absolutely wonderful. Now you do actually get a bonus head sculpt that's kind of got him crying like that. It's adorable and it is an option, but I won't do it on this guy for this video. I don't want to damage any of the ball joints here because this is a pretty old figure and replacing it will be prohibitively expensive since I don't know the logistics of the reissue that came out recently. So I just want to be careful, and I'm not going to really be swapping out any of the ball jointed parts. I just want to keep this nice and safe. He also comes with two little feet pieces that kind of mimic one of his comic appearances. I think it was beaten up by Overlord, but I could be wrong because I've never read that part. Again, I'm not going to show that here. I'm just going to pull up a picture, a stock photo of what that looks like. But it is an option that you can use, although you really don't need any of those extra pieces. He works great on his own, especially with the articulation. The articulation is amazing. You've got a nice ball jointed head with an extra swivel that goes all the way up. That's part of the transformation, but they worked it in amazingly well. You've got ball joints at the shoulders as well as outward hinges, so you get the full universal bicep swivels, 90-degree elbows, and wrist swivels that are a bit tight, but they do work. They're actually made out of ball joints, and these fists are soft plastic, so it does the job anyway. You got thigh swivels on ball jointed hips that go pretty much any way you'd like, even with these bulbous thighs on show. Double jointed knees, and a massive ankle tilt and ball jointed feet, so any pose you want out of this guy, it really works. And it's well balanced too, so you don't have to worry about anything. Anyway, size-wise, he is roughly 7 centimeters by 9 centimeters. So it's pretty well sized, no complaints there. Anyway, moving on to his partner, I am really shocked at how well this fits together. Like, Jesus Christ, this looks like a retool Hasbro would put out. Not an upgraded third-party figure by any means. It's just really astonishing. Bringing in the old pajama Henkei version, you can see that the identity has been really changed. He feels like a completely different bot, despite the fact not a lot of pieces have been altered. It's really just a new head, new fists, and a new hip skirt, as well as the weapon add-on at the back there. But the identity just feels wholly different, and I'm not just saying that because they're completely different decos. Yes, I know the color schemes are a bit different, but even taking that into account, they have really overhauled this figure with just a few simple upgrades. Although it does go to show why it's probably not a good idea to put these pieces on other versions of Cyclonus. I mean, you can, again, but I just wouldn't recommend it. But anyway, the pieces, again, really match up well. They've got new internals for the wrists there that still match up perfectly with the old plastic. Like, Jesus, it just works really well. The head sculpt is absolutely fantastic too, getting all the ferocity of the original whilst still having that wisdom and that sadness in it. I kind of wish that he had both horns, because that's an aesthetic I personally prefer, but that's not really a criticism, that's just a personal thing. One thing I could maybe criticize is that unfortunately you do lose the light piping, and that was something really cool about the original, but it's not that bad. It's not something I can really complain about that much. The articulation still works pretty well with a swivel at the head. The arms are of course as limited as the original, with sort of fake universals that don't really work and no bicep swivel, so only an elbow there with a wrist swivel, although now you actually get a proper wrist swivel here. I guess that's more of an elbow swivel than a wrist swivel, which is why they probably didn't need to add wrist swivels here for the sword, but hey, they chose to, and I guess it works pretty well. The one thing you do sadly lose is the outward motion of the hips. They don't go out as far as they used to, but you can still get some forward stuff as long as you move these out of the way. But yeah, it's an upgrade kit, so there's only so much they can do, but you still get the thigh swivel there, and you still get the 90-degree knee, and it all works really well. And in terms of accessories, yes, he's got his sword on his back there. It just slides out as per usual. Also, fun facts, logistically, putting a sword on your back is not a good idea. It's very hard to unsheath it. But hey, these are robots, so suspension of disbelief is a little bit higher for these kinds of designs. Now, getting it into his hand is actually a bit of a pain in the ass. And of course, it untabs that shoulder that is a bit of a bad QC issue on my copy that probably won't affect yours, but once it's in there, it does look pretty cool. Not much to complain about there. Although, once again, I have to admit, you're not really buying the set for the Cyclonus. If you want to buy this, you get it for tailgate. he is an absolute masterpiece of Legends engineering. This is a bonus, this is a nice thing to get with it on the side. The majority of the price for this set is spent on this, and he is worth every penny. So it's less of a 2-pack, it's more of a Masterpiece Legends figure. Not colloquial masterpiece, just masterpiece in the sense of how well it's done, with a bonus accessory pack. Think of it as the Centurion drone that Hasbro Pulse released. You get a bunch of pieces for other figures, and you get one main figure, as good or as bad as it may be. Although this guy is amazing, so this set completely demolishes the Centurion pack. Of course, with the upgrade kits, the sizes don't change that much, with 10 centimeters wide to the dimensions, and he's 16 centimeters tall. And to finish off, here are some size comparisons with a standard Legion figure, a standard Core Class figure, a standard War for Cybertron Micromaster, and last but not least, Crumbs. I can't really complain about much with this set. It is an absolute masterpiece. The only thing I could really criticize is the marketing, because it's a little bit deceptive. Most of the marketing relates to this guy with the upgrade kits. And it's a decent upgrade kit, sure, and it improves both modes, but it's not the star of the show. You are buying this for Tailgate. This is a bonus. They knew they wanted to make a fantastic Legends figure, and they did. They focused on that, and it turned out fantastically. This is all right, but it's not as memorable. But this was the guy that all the marketing got, so it is a bit confusing there. Just as long as you know what you're getting into, this is a fantastic release. This guy is improved in every way, and this guy is practically perfect. Perfect articulation, perfect paint, great plastic, perfect sculpt. Finally, I have a tailgate that is actually good, since the only ones I really have are the G1 version, which is okay but dated, the Thrilling 30 version, which is shit, and the Power of the Primes one, which isn't much better. So great, finally a good tailgate. Hooray for that. I think now that I've got this guy out, I should just change the scenery just a little bit. Take your little herald and sit him on there. There we go, there we go. Anyway, tomorrow I want to discuss a company that's often forgotten when it comes to third-party Legends discourse. They were right there on the front lines, pushing the niche, maybe more so than most, but everyone seems to forget they ever existed. Well, tomorrow we're returning to them and discussing one of their most important releases. It's the release that put them on the map, and in many respects, it still holds up to this day. So let's take a look at this guy tomorrow.